Okay, so this is our first ever Rising Stars call. I'm pumped. The mission of tonight is just to answer your questions. Most of you that are on are newer coaches and or leaders learning how to lead other coaches. And so we are looking to give you an opportunity every week to have direct mentorship in your business, to answer any kind of questions that you have. And so Holly and I are going to kind of do a Q&A. So she will take the questions that you guys have for her. And then if I have anything to follow up with after, we will. And then if y'all have questions directly for me, we can do it that way too. So before we get started, I want to kind of like pump you guys up. I had like a super downer, like, man, life is so dang heavy kind of day. And if you go on social media right now, it is really easy to get caught up in everything that everyone is going through. And even though my family personally has only been inconvenienced versus necessarily it affecting, there are a lot of people that I love very deeply that are being impacted by this, and I'm internalizing some of that. So I listened to Brendan Burchard. I love him. I posted about him in the team page. If you don't know who he is a wonderful kind of motivational speaker. He writes books. He was actually our keynote speaker at Summit a few years back. And one of the things he talked about in this YouTube video that I watched is how you have to control the controllable and let go of the rest. With what we're facing right now in our businesses, in our personal lives, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be out of your control. There's going to be things out of your control are, and not limited to, people saying no in your business, missing a goal in your business, getting overwhelmed. A lot of new coaches face this like intense overwhelm because it is a lot of information that gets thrown at you, but you're not expected to know it all. So give yourself the grace to be where you're at in your business and continue to make strides forward, taking action forward. So I really want to challenge you as we head into this call tonight to control what you can control. So I know for me, when I'm looking at that, I can control my own journey. I can control if I'm sharing it. If you're not sharing your journey on Facebook, guys, or Instagram, that's a problem. And then 3, I can control how many people that I'm sharing this opportunity with. And that's it. At the end of the day, that's it. So and my mindset, that's like number 1, but I feel like that goes without saying. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Holly for those of you who don't know her, and then I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your questions. So Holly has been a coach for a little over a year with Restoration Nation. She was, so a little bit of background on Holly. So Holly and I met via social media. I think it was probably Facebook. And we've been friends for a couple of months, and I can't remember if I had invited her. She said no, or what the like situation. She reached out, but she got into one of our free groups, and I knew like right away, like you can tell sometimes, like Tabitha, I'm not gonna call you out, but you're the same way in a good way. Like you can tell when somebody's gonna be a good coach because they're like in the groups, and when they're gonna naturally gravitate toward coaching, not necessarily be a good coach, because people can like challenge groups and not be good at coaching. But she gravitated towards that free group. She was posting every day. I remember messaging the team chat and be like, y'all, this girl's going to be in our team any day now. I just feel it. And so we were talking after the free group ended, and she had come on board with she had a set of DVDs. So she was doing her DVDs with the free group, got into the group, and she was like, you know what, heck with it. I want a challenge pack. I'm in. Let's do this. Oh, by the way, I want to coach too. And from that point on, she hit the ground running. She is a Success Club All-Star, which means that every month since the day that she lost her business or launched her business, she has helped 3 or more people in her coaching career. So so that is consistency. She's hit diamond. She in February was at her team, not Restoration Nation, but Holly's team was ranked number 22 in the region and number 86 in the entire network out of 400,000. So Holly has a lot of really great advice. She's one of our own. And if you are in our team, you know Holly is the first to cheer you on. She's one of the biggest encouragers within our organization. So Holly, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Who is going to go first? And if you're shy, I'm going to call you out. I love you, mean it. This is where I get our questions answered. So what are you struggling with in your business? Who wants to go first? Show of hands. Come on, Lindsay, go.
All right, Holly, tell us about how you fit in your inviting and follow-ups and all the business activities that we have to do every day into your schedule with your single mom life sometimes and full-time mama in it.
Whew. A lot of praying and patience. But essentially, you're going to hear this over and over and over and over again. It takes 1 hour a day to build a business. We all scroll on social media. All you have to do is definitely plug in to the challenge groups, definitely plug in and lean into the team, because that will help you succeed. It's not an I thing, it's a team thing. And so if you lean into the team for any questions or advice, that is where you're going to get your success from. Number one, side note. But essentially what I do to start out my day is I go ahead, well, I'm an early bird, so I wait until lunch or a little after for everybody to start, plugging in. So I definitely check into the groups after lunch typically. And during the day, as I'm scrolling, I'm showing love on people's pages. I'm loving their pictures. I'm commenting on their pictures, So essentially, we all do that during the day already. So that is, showing love on people's pages is one thing. That's, building that bond and getting your face out there in a sense. Some people may think that it's weird that you're showing love on a page that they just were friends with you for like a week. Okay, that's fine. You can be weird. We're all weird. But so, in a sense, show love on people's pages. And then as far as invites are concerned, we have a power hour every week as a team. We have a team power hour. And that's a good time for you just to sit down and just plug in because, like Lindsay said, my wife, she's a paramedic and she works 80% of the time. And our daughter, she's almost 3 and slim these days. And so you just have to create that time because it doesn't just come up. You have to create that time to truly sit down and send out those invites. If that's at the end of the day before you go to bed, it's at the end of the day before you go to bed. You make your schedule. And if you don't, you are going to be so overwhelmed and you're going to feel so lost, and that will eat you alive. And it's going to make you feel like this isn't your jam. Well, you're here right now. This is your jam. Okay. So create that time, write out your day. A lot of people do that. I am consistent AF and I am so organized. And so that also will help you. If you're not organized, that's fine. If you're not consistent, you need to fix it because that's one way that you will succeed. But as far as organization, I use Google Streak, and that's something that eventually you will hear about. And it's also, we did a training on it that should be in the team page as well. So if you need, maybe to get to that video, talk to your coach and they'll tag you in that video. Google Streak, for some people, it's not their jam. I know Lindsay, she does not use Google Streak. Rachel actually introduced me to Google Streak because she was like, I know this will help you. And it did. And it does to this day, because I can't write down everyone that I talk to every day. I can't write down everybody I need to follow up with every day. Like that makes me like sweat. Like I can't. But, scheduling that time and creating that time and writing out your day and saying, okay, the first 15 minutes of my morning, I'm going to show love on people's pages. At lunch, I'm going to follow up on my invites, or at lunch, I'm going to send out 2, 3, 5, whatever your number is right now. With everybody being so new, do not get overwhelmed with the number of invites that you feel like you need to send. because that, again, this feeling of overwhelm and feeling that you need, oh, well, she sent out 10, so I need to send out 10. No, you create your own flow and you do what works for you. And essentially, yes, the goal is 3 people a month. We all want to help 3 people a month. But, just don't get overwhelmed in the process, and write out your day and make blocks of time, and it'll all work out in the end.
Okay, so I have some follow-up questions to that. Okay, so you don't specific, and I know this for a fact, so this is what's really cool about Holly, is that she's so organized. She's able to work probably half the amount of time that most coaches do to see the success that she's had. She doesn't have time, so when she gets on there, she doesn't play, and she's organized, and that makes her small pockets of time productive, instead of getting on your phone and scrolling, who am I going to invite? 30 minutes later, you have no idea who you're talking to. So Holly, can you go deeper into your process of using Google Streak? So let's say you add someone on Facebook. What happens? Where do they go? Walk me through that process.
Okay, so anytime that because I will go through, a lot of the times I do this on the weekends if Addison naps, Lord help me, but here lately I've been doing it on my lunch break, and I will go through my suggested friends list, and I'll make sure that we don't have any mutual friends, because we don't need to double triple invite, especially because that people look at that like, oh gosh, I already had like 4 other invites from our team, blah blah blah. But anytime that someone accepts my friend request on Instagram or Facebook, I'm more strong on Facebook. I have a more heavy followers on Facebook, and and the moment that they accept my friend request, I go into the notes section on my phone and I log it on my phone, because I don't have access to Google Street 24/7. I update everything on the weekends. But like, say for example, right now, I don't know if you can see this or not. Probably, yeah, a little bit. Like, these are all my friends that accepted my request on the 18th of April. So, and I just keep up with that, and then I log it into my Google Streak, and that way you know how long they've been your friend.
Love it. Okay, so I'm going to ask her another question, then I'm going to show you guys what Google Streak is, because some of you are like, what the heck is she talking about? Okay, so tell me your invite process. So do you, quote unquote, cold invite? Have you spoken to them prior to the time you send an invite? Like, how have you gotten to the point where you feel confident in your invites? Because a lot of times coaches tend to have this hurdle with like reaching out to people and telling them that there's an opportunity to be a part of their group. So how have you overcome that, and what's your process?
I will tell you that I want to say between 60 to 80, or more like 70 to 80% of my underline are from all cold invites. And some people are like anti-cold, like they just can't do it. Well, I become extremely emotionally detached. I don't take it as a hit against who I am and what I'm trying to do, because I can tell you, I've had a handful of responses that would make me want to hide under a rock for years. But the way that you can overcome that is just brush it off and just keep going. Like, don't let that stop you. I mean, we're human, and we're going to get a little butthurt. But it's fine. We just have to apparently those are not our people, but you know what? Those people, they're still my friends. They still see me.
Love it.
You know what? And you know what? I still like their stuff, and that's okay.
I love it. Okay, so we've talked about inviting a little bit. So who else has a great segue question, Lindsay? All right, so who else? What questions do you have? Don't be shy. So this is not my mission is not to put, as much as I love you, Holly, my mission is not to put Holly on a pedestal, but to give you an opportunity to hear other approaches. Holly and I approach our business very differently. She learned how to run a business from me, And that's okay. Like she does and she's very successful at it. And she works and she's super organized, which is something I aspire to be. Real quick before we get any farther, let me show you what Google Streak is. So some of you don't know what Google Streak, it is a free tracking system that you can, it's like an app you can load into your Gmail. And this, I don't know what Holly's looks like, but you can create any kind of column or what they call them funnels. And so you can expand it. And that's like those were new friends that were recently added or people that I've sent a happy birthday message to. I've sent thank you messages to a transformation post. So then I put them, when I've invited them, you just move them down the funnel and you put them in the invites, you put them in the follow-up, blah, 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 blah. So hers are probably set up a little bit different, but the concept is the same. We do have a detailed training in the team page if you want information on that. If you are you like lists and organization and that's like makes you happy, you need to be using this. I asked Holly that early on, and so she has been using this for a while. Okay, follow-up questions. Who has one? Jen, go ahead.
All right, I would like to know, and this will help I see we have a lot of new coaches on the call too. So, since you've been doing this for a year, what difference did you start with? Like, where were you in the beginning to where you are now in terms of like inviting and following up? Like, did you start with, I'm going to do 3 invites a day versus now you're doing 10 invites a day? Like, what does your business look like different in this last year?
Good question.
I will tell you, some people invite every day, and that's their jam. And again, I will teach and preach and just you do what works best for you and your schedule and your mental state. I do not invite every day. I strictly utilize my invites now, unless I see, like, if I'm scrolling on Facebook and I'm like, holy crap, like, no, I got to invite her like now, like yesterday, then of course I'll invite then. But essentially on the weekends, or first thing in the morning, I will sit down once or twice a week and utilize my invites. And I guess in a sense, Jen, to answer your question, as far as, the 5 a day or 10 a day, I utilize that pocket of time and I whip out 15 to 20 just in that one moment instead of just doing 3 a day or 5 a day, because that's just the time that I have, and are they all 20 going to respond at one time? I wish. Not really, because I don't know. I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. But, more than likely you're going to have probably, I don't know, out of 20, on my friends list, I probably will have maybe 6 to 8 responses. But then the next week when I do my second follow-up, those others that didn't, they're like, oh, okay, sorry, I just seen this message, or my kid was playing YouTube, so it's always good to definitely follow up. But as far as whenever I started versus now, nothing, because I don't like change.
Well, but that's consistency though at its finest. That's a year of consistently every weekend inviting 20 people. And because that's how you hit 6. So tell me about how is it easier now, a year in, than it was say month 2, 3, 4, 5 of getting Success Club? Because Success Club is your strength and that's a non-negotiable goal for you. So have there been months that it's been harder? Like, what do you attribute those harder months? Okay. Yeah. I don't want anybody to think that it was easy. It just comes easy.
No, I would say I don't know what it was about the month of October, but it literally had me sweating. And I had to sign up my wife at like 10:45 at night because I was like, this ain't gonna happen. So, I was like, you have got to help me. But no, it is not easy by any means whatsoever. And I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So no, you're fine. Do you think that people said you get quicker yeses
Oh,
now
yeah.
versus in the beginning. Like, 'cause a lot of times as new coaches, you get a lot of rejection. Like, people aren't like sure what
Yeah.
you're doing. You don't have the credibility of your
Right.
audience. And now, as a year plus coach, do you feel like you have a little bit more weight with the people that you're inviting?
Yes, definitely, because they see your story. You know, just starting out, you were posting a picture here and there, you know, maybe once a week or once a month, and you'll comment on people's stuff. But to build this business, it is vital that you show your face every day and you post something useful that people can somewhat relate to every day. And that way they're drawn to your page and they want to know what you're doing. And on your stories, they follow you on your stories. And, if you're on your stories every day, or if you're posting every day, if you don't, once or twice in a row, like, people are going to reach out to you and be like, yo, what's going on? And these are people that you probably haven't even invited, but hey, that's a chance that you could, because obviously they're following you for a reason and they're noticed that you're gone. But I would say that, with having this for a year, or doing this for a year, those people that started with me in the beginning, it's time, for them to either continue their journey with me, or if they have fallen off, it's good to have that conversation with them again. So essentially, starting out, it was a lot harder because, you weren't as present as you would be now.
Yeah.
But as far as the question, does it get easier?
Well, I don't think if it got easier that we would all stick around. Like, everybody would be doing it if it got easier. I mean, at the end of the day, this is work. Like, this is a business. This is a job. So while it is something we enjoy doing, it's still something that is work. Good question, Jen. Okay, who else? Who wants to go next? And we've got Taylor. All right. Taylor just had a birthday. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I muted you. You unmute yourself again.
Okay. What do you do every day during, like, I'm sure you do more than 1 hour, but what does that consist of for you personally?
Good question.
Good question. Plugging into our team, plugging into people's pages, going on my suggested friends list and making sure there's no mutual friends, and just kind of going through their pictures and pages to see if it was someone that I would vibe with. Yeah.
Mutual friends, as in mutual coaching friends.
Right.
Because we have a very strong local presence, so she's making sure that she's not adding friends of other people's coaches. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Going through the suggested friends list, adding new people, and going through my messages, because a lot of the times if people comment on your story, it'll go to your message, but it's not something that I personally take a mental note of or even note it down, because it's just a story comment, and more than likely you're either just going to respond or like it, especially when it's on Instagram. So I'd take time and scroll through my DMs and make sure I haven't missed anyone. And also I go ahead and I know this sounds really cheesy, but I go ahead and I pre-write my posts for the next couple days, because if I don't do that, I know for a fact it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Some of them may just be a cute quote with a picture of our daughter, or some of them may just be this long drawn out thing that I was feeling that day. Or, it doesn't necessarily always have to be, everybody's different and everybody has a different story. But personally, I don't post about coaching every day, but I do post about, your mindset, or what you're doing that day, or how you felt that day. I try and post. I've gotten better about posting about this opportunity that we have here at least once or twice a week, because you would be doing so many people a disservice if you didn't. And it took me a year to figure that out.
So to recap, when she sits down to work through the week, she is plugging into our team. She's expanding her network. She's connecting with people, and she's posting on social media. That's where she focuses. On the weekends, she does a mass invite blitz, and she gets all her invites done. So notice how hers are broken up, and through the week, because she's working full time, juggling mom life and all that, that's how she structures her week. But that doesn't mean she skips her invites and her follow-ups just because of something she doesn't enjoy doing. So on Saturdays and Sundays, that's when she gets it done. Really good question, Taylor. Thank you for asking that. All right, who has another one? These are great. Nobody? Go ahead, Brenda. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Oops. So I don't know if I missed if you had another job currently or before. Are you a stay-at-home mom or?
I work with Lindsay actually. And right now we're working from home, but typically, I mean, I work 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. And then I started this as a side hustle, just to bring in a little extra money to help with daycare. And it is definitely helping with daycare. That's for sure. It's taking a load off in that sense. Yep.
Love it. Good question. Okay, I had a few written down in case y'all didn't have any, and these are ones that I get most commonly. So, oh crap, where'd it go? Hold on, I put it on my notes. I even texted it to you. Okay. All right. As a new coach, how did you navigate figuring out how to share on social media? Because it's very easy. So you weren't super present on social media when you started, and you definitely weren't doing Insta stories, and you definitely were not showing your face and talking on Insta stories. So homegirls come a long way. So tell me, as a new coach, what was it that helped you to create the habit of daily posting on social media, and how did you go about that?
Well, as far as the Insta stories, you pretty much put us in a corner. It was a group of us, and you were like, listen, I want you to get on here, and I want you to talk about this today.
That's actually very true.
So ever since then, I mean, it still feels awkward because it's like, are you saying something that someone can relate to? Are you saying something that people are actually going to listen to? Because it's like tap, 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 tap. We all do it. It's a thing, but we want to make sure that, people aren't tapping through our story. But as far as how I started out, I look back at my archive because there's a way you can do that on Instagram, and whew, sad days.
So, but the lesson here is that just because your posts weren't great didn't mean you didn't post. You didn't wait.
Hey,
you didn't wait till you knew what you were doing. You just did it.
Hey, and it still got me Success Club.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm telling you, I can promise you my beginning posts, Jen and I's beginning posts are probably twice as bad, I promise. Okay, so this was not a question that I had planned to ask, but I think it'd be a good one. So what either lessons, failures, or things have you learned through in the process that, looking back, you can share, like, what you learned, or to give someone the opportunity to avoid that in the future? Like, what lessons have you learned in your coaching business?
I would just say make sure that you do not become so emotional behind the invite. I guess that's why I do so many cold invites secretively, because it's like, yeah, I've invited my friends, but it's like the cold invite, you're already emotionally detached because they don't know you and you don't know them. They just know of you, and they know that they see your face on their feed every day, and they know what you're about. And that's one thing that needs to be present is if a random person that I never even seen on my feed decided to send me something, I'll be like, well, dang, when's the last time they posted? But that's a side note. Just make sure that you're, emotionally detached from your invites. That will help you 100%. And as far as failures, there's goals that you are going to have set for yourself. Just like there's a goal that I've set for myself this month, and I have come to terms that it may not happen. I'm not saying it's not going to. I'm just saying it just may not happen. And at the end of the day, At the end of the day, look at how far you've come mentally and physically and how much you have gained in the process. And that will get you so far, so far. So just, if you have a failure, because we have all had them, just look at it as a learning experience. Look at it as, what can you do different, and what has someone else done different to get to where they're at. You know, should your journeys be the same? No. But advice, helpful tips, constructive criticism, what works for them may work for you. In a sense, you can take little nuggets out of what they do and maybe tweak it in your own way, and it might work. So look at your failures as a learning experience and try not to beat yourself up over it, because this is a business and it is hard, but we're capable of hard things and we're resilient.
Love it. Preach. Mic drop. Brenda has a question. Go for it.
Yes. So, I know you said that you were prominent, or you started through Facebook. And how did you transfer over to Instagram? Do you connect the two and have the same story on both of them, and share the same thing? Because sometimes I personally feel like I don't want to see the same thing sometimes. I don't know if that's just me, but like when I see other people's pages, and or maybe just my friends, certain friends, like seeing the same thing over again, and I'm checking both social media. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's a question like of how you started with Facebook, and how did you transition to Instagram, or incorporating both of them?
No, that's fine. That's a good question. So there are people on my Facebook. I'm not friends with them on Instagram. So in a sense, and the people on my Instagram, they're not my friends on Facebook sometimes. So, usually I will see people on Instagram and, they'll have their friends tagged, or, and then I'll start following them, but I'm not friends with them on Facebook. And so, and I know some people that do post, I know Rachel, she posts a different picture on Instagram and she'll have a different picture on Facebook. I haven't got to that level just yet, but, but, the people on my Facebook, I tend to be able to navigate a little better. I'm not Instagram savvy. There's some people out there that are like, Instagram's my jam. This is primarily where my whole business has came from. Mine is the opposite. Like, it's like 30, 40% Instagram, but the rest is through Facebook. So essentially, to answer your question, yes, I do post the same thing, but that's because I have different followers on each one.
That's a good point. Keep going. You're good.
Another question, like if you are inviting someone, they're interested, but they say, hey, I'm not used to posting or checking in on Facebook. I'm not used to posting, so I forget all the time. But that's probably the main reason why they're trying to stay away from getting involved. Like, do you try to win them over or show them the benefit of it?
What do you mean? Like they don't get on Facebook much?
Yeah, like I definitely lean more towards Instagram. So I struggle myself checking into Facebook and checking all the groups. Like that was my initial struggle, was that I was first primarily on Instagram and struggled to check in on Facebook until, I decided, okay, I'm going to make that effort to check in on Facebook. So I can only imagine some people saying, hey, I'm not really prominent on Facebook, so being part of a Facebook group doesn't make sense to me,
So I'll hop in on this one. So I think bod groups may be the solution to that. And that's not something I'm super educated on. I was actually in the middle of watching the training video before this call. So I think I posted in the team page, but the beauty of bod groups is that it's not on Facebook, it's not on Instagram, it's directly in the Beachbody On Demand app. And so essentially it replaces a Facebook group or whatever, or the old My Challenge Tracker app that'll go away, and it will be in the BOD app, and it will be a BOD group. So that may be your like really easy next step, since you're prominent on Instagram and a lot of your people, because I get it, Facebook can be a trash hole. But so they may prefer BOD groups over a Facebook group. I have not watched enough on that call to know much about BOD groups, so I don't know if our team is going to gravitate that way or not. So stay tuned on that one. Holly, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I know I've had a couple people that aren't very, Facebook savvy or Facebook friendly. Like they had the falling out with their ex that they had to delete their account and all this, essentially, I mean, like you said, and it's hard to create that habit when you're not used to it. But a lot of the times for those people that aren't, used to logging in as under a Facebook group or whatnot, I just ask them like, well, what form of accountability do you need from me as a coach? Do you need me, or do you want the encouragement of a group of people as a team? Because ultimately some people just might like it just on an individual one-on-one basis. They like to check in with you. They don't want to post in the groups. I know I have a couple, like probably about 2 handfuls of people that they just check in with me because they don't want to post in the group because they're not comfortable with it yet. And that's fine and that's okay. You just have to figure out where their accountability lies. Like, what do they need from you and what can you give them in return? And if they need that team vibe, if they need that hip hip hooray type feel, then they would need to find a way to be active in these groups and create this relationship if that's the accountability they need. And some people create a whole new account or just use their husband's or boyfriend's or someone's account and they just log in our team page that way.
Okay. What advice would you give anybody else? Wait, before I say this, anybody else have a question? I love this. Makes me so excited. Nobody else? Don't be chicken. All right, so I have one that I feel is applicable to the crew that we have here. So Holly, what advice would you give newer coaches or coaches struggling to get their business up and going? What advice would you give them? Where would you have them focus their energy, and what action steps?
We're going to preach this till the freaking cows come home, and that is personal development. Definitely dive into that. There's a lot of good personal development, whether you're a podcast person or whether you're an Audible person or whether you need it in your hands. I know for a fact I was not a reader. I had when I first started. And then I just, starting out, I was like, well, I need something. And so I picked up one of Rachel Hollis's books, and then I picked up another, and then I picked up another. And, I'm on my 4th personal development book right now, and I wouldn't trade it for the freaking world. So personal development, starting out this business, will be huge with your mindset, because ultimately it all starts with your mindset. If your mind ain't right, you are not going to run this business right. And you do not need to create a mindset that you feel like you're not going to be successful, because if you think it, more than likely, I don't even need to say the rest, but ultimately just be consistent. Starting out your business, be consistent, do personal development, and lean into the team. If you have questions, lean into your coach if you have concerns. If you need help navigating a conversation, reach out to your coach or drop it in the team chat. We talk about it all the time. Like, how can I get this girl? I've been talking to her for weeks. I've been talking to her for hours. Like, what am I saying? Like, how can I, hook, line, and sinker in a sense? Reach into us, lean into us. I probably talk to someone and ask them a question almost every week, because it's, you know, it's always changing and it's something that's always new, and navigating different people in so many different ways, because you may have someone that's all gung-ho, and then you may have someone that's been doing research and looking up YouTube videos on Beachbody and how Beachbody sucks, and you just have to convince them that it doesn't.
So when you say be consistent, what are the areas that you mean be consistent? Will you define that for me? What have you been consistent in that has paid off for you?
Working out and consistently sharing your workouts and posting and inviting and creating that system that works for you, because that will bring in the consistency. Because if you're overwhelmed, you're going to fall off the rails, and then you're going to feel like you're not consistent because you're overwhelmed, and it's just just make sure that, you know, you create a system that works for you, and consistency is and has to be involved in that.
Love it. Good. That's exactly good answer. Okay, any last call for questions? We'll wrap up this call. We'll take about a 20-minute break, and then we have our next call at 8:30. Any other questions and this can be for me if y'all have a question for me that you need help with, or a question for Holly. Brenda, go ahead. And let me just say this. I can tell you from my perspective, and any other coach leader on the team, I love to hear from my coaches. It is not a bother. When I hear from you, it makes me know that you're working your business, and that brings me joy because I know that I can help. So please know that anytime you have a question, whether it's here in the team chat or in a private message to me or your leader, you're not a bother. It's exciting. Okay, go ahead, Brenda. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to personally, I mean, I don't think I'm following you, Holly, but how did you navigate when you first started your coaching business? How did you introduce that to your wife, to kind of like figuring that with the relationships that you're close, you know, or surrounded by? So how did you navigate that with her?
Love that question.
Honey, it's a daily thing. It is a daily thing, because ultimately we run this business from our phones, and yes, we get distracted. And do we get excited when we get someone that's interested and we want to talk to them right then and there because we're so effing excited? Yes, but sometimes you just can't. And sometimes it just has to wait until tomorrow. And you know, whenever I first signed up, you know, ultimately I was like, I really, really want Shakeology, and I really, you know, I've got to be able to pay for it. Like, I've got to be able to pay for it. So I've got to, you know, sign 3 people up a month, and I've got to help 3 people a month. And, you know, my first mindset whenever I first started was, I have to sign 3 people up a month. I have to get 3 people a month, because I want to pay for my Shakeology. But now going forward, my mental state behind it all has changed. Now I'm like, I need to help 3 people a month. I need to meet 3 people a month. I need to, you know, grow this bond and create this team of women that want to do this beside of me. And essentially, you know, if your mindset isn't already there, because having that mindset can get overwhelming at the beginning, but starting out with the mindset of, I want to pay for my Shakeology, so I need to get 3 people to sign up, versus now a year later, I want to build a team, and I want them to be successful, and I want to be a good leader. And there's days where you're going to feel like you suck, and that's normal. But ultimately, starting out, you know, she was like, well, we can't afford Shakeology every month. And I was like, I know. I was like, but I feel like I could do this. And I did. And I proved her wrong. And I'm proving her wrong every day. And and you know what? She is primarily in control. I don't look on our bank account, you know, because I take care of everything around the house. I take care of all the land. That's a side note. Anyways, so she sees the money that comes in, and she's like, oh. I was like, oh, okay. So so at the beginning, it was difficult because I had to figure out a way to prioritize family and prioritize dates and prioritize friends and then prioritize the business side of it. And that's where the pockets of time during your day is really going to come in handy. Is, you know, she knows that on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, I have a blocked time because she has to approve time cards on the laptop on Sundays. And I'm like, well, you need to wait, or you need to go ahead and do it because I need the laptop, you know. So she's gotten used to my routine and, you know, gotten used to me needing time. And sometimes I'll just flat out say, like, hey, I need a minute. I need to talk to someone, you know. And ultimately, instead of seeming distracted and acting like you're listening, because let's be honest, we're not, just flat out saying, give me just a minute, and then I'm going to put my phone down for the rest of the night. So just being blunt about that time that you want with them and the time that you need right then and there, if it's that important and cannot wait until you have the time the next day. So essentially, it's just a daily thing. Respect each other's time, and if they feel as if it's a distraction, time you're putting into them and how much time you're taking away from them, if that makes any sense. Because in a sense, if you're constantly on your phone and they're trying to talk to you, then honestly, they're not going to be down for the business because they're going to feel like that's all that you do. But in a sense, if you just prioritize that time to work on the business and prioritize that, it's a daily thing.
So to piggyback off of that, I think communication is the biggest thing there. Is you have to, and sticking to the time that you say you're not going to be working. So what I often see happen, especially with new coaches, that they're so excited, they get so wrapped up that they're always on their phone learning and wanting to do all the things, but they have not set the boundaries with their phone. So their spouse or their boyfriend or whoever it is becomes resentful of you being on your phone. So my challenge to you, if this is an area that could use work, obviously we're in quarantine right now, so it may not apply, but when this quarantine is lifted, we can get back to real life. You make sure that your phone is not near you, because they're going to associate this business with your phone. Even if that's not what you're doing on your phone, they're going to associate this. And if you're on your phone and distracted away from them, they're going to start resenting the business. So having those clear boundaries early on of saying, I know that on Mondays from, like Holly knows, Mondays is a work night. That's a night she gets on. She works from 7 to 9:30. That's her time. And Whitney knows that. And so does Donnie. But then on Tuesday nights, if they have date night, her phone is in the bedroom away and not out. So it's just really making sure you respect them and also your business by saying, and I have to be very clear with Donnie and say, obviously I work full time with this, so it's a little bit different, but I have to say I will be working from, and we have to start the day like that. Okay, this is our schedule. This is our week ahead. Like, this is when I'm going to be working. And when I'm not working, my phone goes in the other room because I can't see off of it because I just want to like keep doing all the things. So just set those boundaries, put the phone aside when you're with the people that you care about so they don't start associating resentment with the business, would be the best tip that I can give you on that. All right, so we're going to wrap up tonight. Awesome. We're going to do this every Monday night. Next week will not be a guest speaker like this, I don't think. I'll just be on here and we're going to work through anything that you have going on in your business. So we're going to actively like be mentoring, working through those things together. And then the week after, Lindsay's going to be our Q&A speaker. So lots of good stuff. I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. We've got a killer guest speaker on our call. We're going to be talking specifically about building relationships and how to grow your network. So things that Holly talked about earlier, we're going to dive deep into that here in a few minutes. So I'm going to hop off so I can end this recording and then start a new one in 10 minutes. I'll see you guys in a few. Bye.